Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another third stimulus check unemployment benefits extension update. So in today's update, I really just want to take a revisit once again to the unemployment benefits extension program because most of you guys probably already know the really great news, but I think by now is that the entire stimulus package has now officially been approved in its entirety. But I do know is that right now there's still a very common question that's floating around, which is really about the reapplication process, about whether or not you should reapply. I think if anything, that's probably the most common question that everyone is wondering, so I kind of just wanted to make a video specifically just dedicated just exploring that exact information and that exact question. I think most people, if you've been around for a while, you probably know that the general big idea is that most states, thankfully, are doing some kind of smooth rollover process, but probably the part that's a little bit more new information is about when we actually should be reapplying for the unemployment, because there are actually specific cases that we didn't really talk much about. So I really want to just address that in today's video, because even if it is a smooth rollover now, eventually sometime into the future there is a chance that maybe not necessarily now, although maybe that is true, maybe it is actually now, but maybe if anything, maybe in the future you maybe will have to eventually reapply if you guys are very much still on unemployment by the, who knows, indefinitely time into the future. So we're going to explore all of that in today's video. So we're going to get started right away on the spot. But before we begin, make sure you smash the like button, especially in light of a lot of the great news. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification button. Of course, we are in the final stretch, so you guys can kind of decide if you guys want to. But we probably will be making a transition into a lot of other like general finance topics. So a little bit of just a heads up. And also feel free, as always, to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly just really anything at all. If I overlook your question, feel free to just comment in again in any kind of updated, more future video. And also real quick is that if you guys by any chance have received any information from your particular state in regards to the unemployment, feel free to comment it down below, because as we've kind of mentioned is that most of this stuff at the end of the day is going to be a very collaborative thing, and I think the big thing is that the most accurate information will always be from the people that are actually physically living in a particular state than almost any other information that we can possibly get out there, even the official like state websites, although that's probably the second best place. So feel free if you guys have any information. So with that being said, let's just get started on the spot. So when it comes to the reapplication processes, is that the general ideas, as we've kind of just mentioned, is that it actually really does depend on the state, because every single state is going to be doing something differently. Now, as most of you guys know, is that the really great news is that I think most states intend to do some kind of smooth rollover process. So that is the really great news about it. I know definitely New York, I know definitely New Jersey, I believe Georgia, but someone there can confirm or deny. I'm pretty sure Colorado, I think someone mentioned in Delaware, and I even think in Pennsylvania, actually, they said it was something about like they were going to try to do a smooth rollover. Although if you guys are in any of those states, feel free to comment it down. If I don't mention your state, it probably means that we're still waiting for more information, or that it just hasn't been as publicized yet around to a large audience of some kind. But the really great news is that I think most states are planning to do some kind of smooth rollover. So if you guys are still waiting, or if you guys have basically are wondering how to transition onto the new unemployment process, I think that the overwhelming majority of the people at this time are still pretty much just waiting. Like, thankfully, they're just taking it easy and really just waiting for more information. I think almost every single state is hoping to maybe send out an email of some kind. However, if you're looking for very immediate information, almost every single state has some kind of social media page. I think that on a lot of these social media websites, you should likely find the most accurate information about what your state is currently doing, especially in case, if just for reasons, which happens all the time, that maybe they end up sending an email just for reasons you maybe never got the email. Maybe they overlooked it, or just something came up. I think that would probably be the best place to check. Now, in terms of when you actually should be reapplying, which is the really interesting question, I think that I found this flowchart that explains it relatively well. And again, keep in mind is that when I'm explaining almost everything in this video, I'm explaining it really in the perspective of what the majority of states are doing. So every single state is likely going to have some kind of variation, which is also why I highly recommend you guys to just check the official state website or state social media pages or the actual emails that they're likely going to and hopefully send out over the next couple of days, or in actually many cases maybe they've already sent out some kind of email. But basically, when you're looking at this flowchart, the general idea is that if you are on the PUA unemployment, in most cases you guys probably don't have to reapply, which is the really great news. I think that the overwhelming majority on PUA are pretty much just waiting around, chilling around, waiting for more information to arrive, and I think the overwhelming majority are hoping to do a smooth rollover process. The part that actually interestingly becomes a lot more varying is really about almost every other kind of unemployment program. So for example, the traditional unemployment, PUC, FedEd, EB, the general idea, as you guys can probably see from the flowchart, is that if you guys have not reached your BYE date, so basically your benefit year end date, for most people it's just basically going to be about exactly 1 year from when you guys started your unemployment program. So basically your 1 year anniversary to the unemployment program. And if you guys have not actually reached that yet, then I think by logic you guys hopefully still have dates. Then the great news is you guys don't have to reapply. You guys can likely just continue onto your program unless again they say otherwise. Now the part that's a lot more interesting is about when you actually should physically reapply, and one common case that when they really may want you to reapply is if by any chance you happen to be someone that maybe has actually gone back to work. I think that's one of the most common examples because there are actually a lot of people, I know, especially in certain industries, that maybe lost their jobs when the pandemic hit. I mean, I believe at that time about 20 million people filed for unemployment the very first month of the lockdown or something like that. So there are actually a lot of people that actually went unemployed and got onto the unemployment program, but then maybe when the restrictions casually got lifted, like say for example, like especially during the summertime, they did lift the lockdown for a lot of places. There were a lot of people that maybe actually thankfully got to go back to work actually. But then the problem is that maybe when the fall/autumn came back, they lost their jobs again. So they basically went from unemployed to being back to employment, and then now fell back into unemployment for the second time once again. If that ended up happening to you, then there is a chance that you maybe will have to reapply. This is actually even more true if you ever ended up taking some kind of temporary job. It was something very common for a lot of people during the holiday season. There are a lot of people that maybe just grabbed a temporary holiday job, but then now that the holidays are over, is back to unemployment. I think the general rule of thumb across a lot of states is that they're doing the 10-time rate weekly. So what that means is that the idea is that if you made 10 times or more on your new job when you guys went back to employment, then whatever amount you guys were collecting on your state unemployment, then there is a chance you guys might have to reapply. An example of this is, say for example, you happen to be collecting $200 per week. Oh, and by the way, this amount is, we're talking specifically about the state unemployment. So it does not include any of the FPUC boosters. It does not include the $300, $400, $600. I missed that $600. I don't know how many of you guys remember that. But it only includes the state unemployment. So if, say for example, right now you're collecting $200 every week on state, 10 times $200 is $2,000. So if you guys maybe went back to being employed for about 1 month, but during that month you guys collected more than $2,000 because 10 times 200 happens to be, well, $2,000, then there is a chance that you guys may have to reapply. Now, if you guys by any chance are just not confident or not sure, that's kind of why I always references is that going to their official website or waiting for their emails, or you guys could even look into calling. If you guys are interested, it never hurt to at least try to attempt to call. That would probably be the best way how you guys can probably be the most sure and confident about what you guys should do. Now, beyond this is there are actually other much more specific reasons why you may end up having to reapply, but they're actually a lot more particular to the state. I think the other most common reason, honestly, is if there's just something that came up about your account. So for example, there were some people that because of just different reasons, they ended up having their unemployment accounts either frozen or just going through some kind of technical related issue, and then because of that reason, their state specifically told them to reapply. But the general rule of thumb is that if you are not sure, hold off on reapplying. Don't reapply until you really feel confident to reapply, because there's actually a lot more risk if you end up reapplying when you're not supposed to than the reverse. Because if you guys haven't reapplied, it is much easier for you guys to end up just reapplying later and then attempting to try to get backdated on a lot of the dates from the past. However, the reverse is a lot more difficult. There were a lot of people that reapplied when they were not necessarily supposed to, and it's especially true because certain states ended up in a situation where maybe they ended up finding two different accounts linked to the same exact one identity, so they ended up actually freezing it because they were kind of wondering, well, is there some kind of situation or some kind of identity theft related thing going on? That is something that maybe can happen. I don't think it's very, very likely, but it is something that can happen, so it's better to just kind of be safer and on guard when possible. But that's what I really wanted to share in today's update, so hopefully you guys found that relatively insightful. Remember to smash the like button if you guys hopefully did. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification button for other kinds of videos related. I do know we are in the final stretch, so you guys can decide. Huge thanks again to every single person who's really shared their support, especially because it's been quite a journey that we've literally been through. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and again, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly just really anything at all. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.